challenges most new mothers face in establishing breastfeeding. So I'm here to talk to you, give you a little information as to how it's going to, you know, it might help you in the initial days of your motherhood. So I will start speaking about the initial challenges that you might face while breastfeeding, and then probably you can just ask your questions, and I'll be able to answer from here. So I'm about to start. So today we are going to discuss about what we'll focus today is on the importance of breastfeeding, why breastfeeding is very advantageous for a new baby, for a newborn, what to expect in the first week of postpartum and how to be prepared for it. Three important steps towards establishment of breastfeeding. Position and attachment, which is very, very important. Common hurdles a new mother faces during breastfeeding. Once I finish talking about it in detail, we can start question and answers, because we have a limited time. I need to get to speak. I get to speak to only for 15 minutes, and then I will cover up as much as theory is there in these 15 minutes, and then we'll get into the Q&A, and then we can probably you'll be asking me questions and I'll be able to answer. Okay. I generally start my classes with this saying where it says immunization is preventive medicine par excellence. If there was a new vaccine available in the market that could prevent 1 million or more child deaths per year, and that was moreover available freely, which was cheap, safe, administered orally, requires no cold chain to store it, then it would become a public health imperative. That means the government would make it compulsion for every child to take it. Breastfeeding does all this and more, not even just for the baby, for the mother also. So but breastfeeding can be that vaccination that the baby gets and gets all the benefits from that we spoke about. It is cheap, it is safe, it is administered orally, and it has a lot of antibodies that the baby requires to get through in life. So breastfeeding could do all this and more, but it requires is warm chain of support, that is from the attenders of the mother or the nurses who you are with them, the gynecs, the lactation consultants. It requires a very warm chain and support that takes care of training the mother as to how to breastfeed. Breastfeeding is not rocket science. It's a very natural and organic process that every mother used to follow a couple of years ago or few years. It's always been the practice breastfeeding in whichever part of the world you are in. But it's surely getting down because information about how naturally it can be done is not available everywhere, and formula feels like a easy option because the mother is not usually getting all the support that it, in nuclear families it's not there. Working mothers, earlier on we didn't have a concept of working mothers. A new mother was always treated like a queen irrespective of the economic background they've been from. So the working mother, the nuclear families, this is the number one hurdle. But again, multitasking has always been something that women do easily. So breastfeeding cannot take a backseat because of a mother doing a lot of other work. So that is what I'm here to explain as to how to make it easy, what happens, what to expect when the baby is born, and how to make it easy for a mother to establish breastfeeding. There are a lot of challenges, but trust me, it's not rocket science. It's just that it needs a it's a skilled learned art. Breastfeeding is a learned art. You need a little information, a little support, and then you're bang on breastfeeding your child for the first 1 year of its life. Okay, it is also very important to understand the importance of the first few days feed, and also to protect the child from harmful practices like pre-lactating foods and sugar water, jaggery water, honey, and all that. So it is a harmful practice. So most babies don't react to it, but some babies react and they have adverse reactions to it. So it is very important for the mother to understand that it is very important that the mother understands all about it and this thing. Just give me a second and I'll. So here we are going to understand why breastfeeding is very important. It is optimal nutrition for the newborn children. It protects infants from several diseases, protects several diseases in adult life too. I'll explain you as to how adult life is affected from the how adult is also healthy because of the breastfeed is taken as a child. There is a few concept of immunity, active immunity, passive immunity, which I'll come to a little in a little while. Reduces the risk of breast cancer and uterine cancer in mothers. Saves a lot of money for the family. Formula costs a lot of money. Saves times for the mother. Protects the environment. Less use of plastic. Less use of tin in formula boxes and bottle for feeding. Helps long term to have a healthier society, because healthy babies make healthy adults. Healthy adults make healthy society. It is also profitable for an employer. I would want to explain this part a little more elaborately. There was a research done a few years back which took into account working mothers and their pattern of leave, absence of leave, when they take an absence of leave. There was a clear cut margin which explained that breastfeeding mothers take less number of days off taking care of a sick child at home than the mothers who have formula fed the baby. So there is a clear indicator that an employer who hires a mother who has breastfed her kids is more profitable than an employer who, see, I'm not saying formula feed is bad. Sometimes it's just not possible. But again, you cannot treat it as a better option than breastfeeding. A little effort goes into establishment of breastfeeding. I'm not saying it's very easy, but a little effort, and then it makes the foundation for the baby's immunity in the long run. Okay. So before I start, I just wanted to find out if I am audible and everything is clear, because we have a lab. Yes, okay, I got a yes. So there are three very important steps in breastfeeding establishment. The first 2 days, where the baby gets colostrum, the baby is put onto the breast. The baby's stomach size is very small, as the capacity of the stomach is about 5 ml, not more than that. So it is very important that the baby gets the colostrum, and it's a beautiful system going inside the mother's body. The milk keeps increasing as the baby drinks more. So it is a perfect cycle of demand and supply. The baby latches on, the baby empties whatever colostrum is there in the body. The next 2 hours goes in producing more milk, and every time for the next feed, there's more milk available for the baby. That's how the system works. So that's why we say confusing the baby body by giving formula in the first few days can lead to a lot of formula giving and less breast milk. So it's very important. See, there is a case of dry breast. It's very rare where the mother is not making initially milk, but that if the baby latches on, the milk starts sometimes. Some mothers make milk immediately after birth. Some mothers need a little latching on because the baby delivers from down below and the upper body is not aware of it. And when the baby latches, then hormone gets triggered, there's sudden drop in progesterone, and there's initiation of milk. So there is a lot of system, there is a lot of theory and there is a lot of technicality which works inside the system. Sometimes it helps to have, sometimes it doesn't help. All you have to do is put the baby onto the breast, the baby burps and the baby cries again, you put the baby back onto the breast. There's no hard and fast rule that you have to feed only for 2 hours. If you've had the baby 10 minutes on each side and the baby burp, the baby down, the baby urine, all that milk is washed out, the baby might be hungry in one. So cluster is also allowed. You can put the baby as many as 12 to 13 times in a day onto the breast, provided it is a long, it is not a long stretch of a latch. It's about minutes on one side, 7-8 minutes on the other side, and it is done. You can't have the baby continuously for half an hour on one breast and another half an hour. Lead to weight loss, and then the baby is just using you as a pacifier, and any which will lead to the baby. The first 2 days is the process of initiation. You put the baby onto the breast, the baby empties the breast, and then after the time, whatever the baby takes time, some babies take lesser time to digest and get hungry again. So there's no hard and fast rule that it has to be 2 hours. It can be an hour, it can be 2.5 to 3 hours too. But again, you can't let the baby sleep for more than 3 hours, because as a new mother, you cannot differentiate between a dehydrated baby and a sleepy baby. Don't assume that the baby sleeps for 3 hours, and don't assume that the baby is giving you a break. No, the baby might be too tired and too dehydrated to wake up and ask for a feed. So first 10-15 days, 3 hours is what you look for when you are feeding. Okay. Then the next step is your establishment. Maintenance. Establishment is done towards the thing, and then maintenance will start once the mother gets home from the hospital. You feed the baby. It's on a simple principle called autocrine principle, which means demand and supply. You feed the baby, your body responds with milk. You miss a session, the body gets cues. You miss 2 sessions of feeding wherein you give 2 formulas without giving breast milk, your body gets a hint that you are weaning off breast milk. So it will reduce the production. So that is why formula intake can lead to less milk supply. That is where you have to do a little bit. You have to be a little smart about. You have to communicate to your body to make more milk. If formula is given, keeping in mind the baby's weight loss or phototherapy or jaundice levels, there has to be background work. There has to be a lot of background work which helps you to stop breast formula and get back to feeding. Okay. And then once the maintenance is done, it's easy from there. Once the 7-8 days of the initial breastfeeding is done, then it's all easy down road from there. Okay. See, I'll tell you the unique factors in breast milk composition. You have very less time to finish off the theory part. Breast milk is available. The bioavailability of breast milk and digestibility. You have to understand breast milk is species specific. It is made for human babies. You have not seen a goat drink milk from a cow. We have not seen a calf go drink from a donkey. We are the only humans who drink of other species. Breast milk is made species specific. If the delivery happens a little early, if we have a preterm baby on hand, like 32 weeks, 33 weeks, even that mother makes milk, which is species specific for her own baby. So WHO also has a very strict standard of breastfeeding. The 3 options for feeding an infant is direct breastfeeding, borrowed breast milk, or EBM. I mean EBM and then borrowed breast milk. Your formula is nowhere in the accepted list of feeds. So that is how we do it. Earlier on, if one mother was having a delay in lactation, she would depend on another mother who was feeding her own human baby. Not cow, not buffalo, not any other species, but human baby. So human milk is species specific. So that's why the bioavailability and digestibility are the 2 main most important aspects of breast milk. Milk changes during feed. The first 5 minutes, this is about once the baby is about 10 days old. The first 5-6 minutes that you feed the baby, it is fore milk, which is a little thin. And then we get into hind milk, which is a real feed for the baby. So that's why the time the baby spends onto the breast is more after the 10th day. It might be just 1 breast at a time, should also be enough if the mother is making good enough milk. Milk changes as per the baby's needs. If you see, if the mother delivers at 32 weeks, her body is making that milk which can be digested by a 32-week-old baby. And you have seen a lot of mothers who continue breastfeeding for a longer while, till 1 year, 1.5 years. So that mother makes milk which is digestible and meets all the nutrients for a 15-month-old baby. So it is very, very species specific, tailor made. Like when you go to a tailor and get yourself a dress made, how is it made? It is made out of your measurements, rather than going and picking up a ready made. breast. So this breast milk is also it's also can be called as tailor-made milk for your own baby. Then again, when you come to immunity, there are two kinds of immunities. There are active immunity and passive immunity. Active immunity doesn't get developed till the child is about 7 to 8 years old. And that active immunity is what the baby is going to have when the baby is an adult. Passive immunity is something the baby depends on 0 to 8 years. And there is no, whatever the formula says, or whatever your Horlicks, Bonvita, all these boxes say, passive immunity can be passed only through breast milk and no other source. Passive immunity is what is the foundation stone for what the active immunity is. So without passive immunity, there can be active immunity once the baby about. See, if you've heard older wife stories telling you that passive immunity active once babies who have a lot of allergies and stuff. Many old people tell you, old wives tales, that once a baby reaches a certain age, like 7 to 8, it will come down. So that is what, because that's when your active immunity kicks in. But your passive immunity, if it's not intact for the first 8 years, your baby will fall sick every season change. And you will have to give antibiotic every season change. That is, if you're looking at 8 years of that, and then every season change, you're looking at almost 20 antibiotic doses. So when a body gets so much antibiotic doses in such a young age, the active immunity is not going to be so strong too. That's why we say, that is what I said, I'll come back to later. Stronger baby, good immunity, infancy, passive immunity, which will lead to a good active immunity in adult life. Okay. Now, we can get into questions now. If you have any position questions, that can be answered here. If one of those, any questions from... Okay, we will. Okay. Oh, I'm seeing the questions. Okay. See, what can one do for a sore breast? So, I will do. It's kind of a two-part question here. If the nipples are sore, it is a position and attachment difference. If the breasts are sore, then it is an engorgement. So I'll tell you how to deal with a sore nipple first. A nipple gets sore for every mother in the first few initial days. It's like a shoe bite. When you wear a new shoe, you might get blisters. So there is a little soreness when a baby feeds. You're not used to that aggressive latching. Okay. Then what happens is, if you take care of the position, sit up straight, take the baby to the breast, go back with a good back support. Make sure the baby's ear, shoulder, and hip are in a straight line. That means the baby is always turned towards you while feeding. You can't have the baby lying down and the head turned towards you. You have to have the whole body turned towards you. That is the most important aspect. That's why we say ear, shoulder, hip in a straight line. See, imagine if you have a cup of water here and you want to drink it. Would you go like this? What is happening here? You're twisting your neck too much, and then you will try very hard to get your glass in front of you. Okay, that is what the baby does, and that is what creates soreness in the nipple. The best way is to turn completely, take a sip, and come back. Okay, that is what the baby has to do. Baby has to completely turn towards you while feeding. So baby goes to the breast, mother sits back with a good back support, ear, shoulder, and hip of a baby in a straight line. And the baby always latches on the areola, not on the tip of the nipple. If you press a little hard on the nipple, you might get 1 or 2 drops. But when you work your hands towards the breast and press the areola, that is when you see a flow of milk. So the baby has to latch on the areola. At least 70% of the areola should be inside the baby's mouth while you are breastfeeding. That will take care of the soreness in the breast, soreness of the nipples. Okay. After every feed, squeeze out a little milk, put it on the areola and to the nipple, and let it air dry for about 2-3 minutes. Air drying is very important because once you apply it nicely onto the nipple and you put on clothes, your clothes will absorb all the milk. So it's basically moisture. So that is very important. Air drying is very important. And then when your breast is sore, I think the person who asked me, Lakshmi, when you say sore breast, I'm assuming it's engorgement. So you are making a little more than the body needs. That it's very normal for the new mother to develop a little fever if she's making an extra milk, and also you'll have a little backache because you're not used to your breast carrying so much weight. So that is there. You want to use hot compress. If your breasts seem a little hard than usual, just before a feed, put a hot compress. If there is any lump formation in the breast, that will liquidify, because it is very difficult for a baby to take milk from a solid breast. It has to get into liquid form. Okay, so hot compress will help you get the milk solid, the lumpy milk into liquid form, and the baby can easily. So before every feed, engorgement, hot compress is very important. We don't do cold compress before every feed because that can alter the temperature of the milk. We do only hot compress. If there is a lot of soreness in the nipple, then immediately after feed you can do a cold compress. I hope that answers your question, Lakshmi Mishra. We'll go on to the next question. How many times I need to drink milk to make sure I can properly produce milk? So making milk is a myth. You might not need to drink a little more milk. Whatever you're used to in pregnancy, you can about 2 glasses. Or with any supplement, I would avoid sugary supplements. So that's there. So you don't need milk to make more milk. Milk doesn't become milk. I mean, the mother consuming milk doesn't get into directly to the breast and give the baby. It has to get digested, get into the. So you would rather have more nutritious food than milk and bread. That's the biggest myth, milk and bread. So be smart about it. You need the calcium. Otherwise, the baby is going to take from your calcium. So whatever you're used to in pregnancy, or whatever you're used to otherwise, you can have curd, you can have other source of calcium if you're allergic to milk also. But yeah, milk doesn't produce milk. It's a myth. You don't have to overdo. Just 2 glasses, 2 cups actually is more than enough for a lactating mother. Okay. Okay, a tongue tie can make latching a challenge, but still possible. Yes, yes, tongue tie can make it a little challenging, more so for the mother because it might just give her more soreness. There might be a cut here and there sometimes. You might want to use a nipple shield if it gets very tough while feeding. For baby, it is not possible to remove the tongue tie, but usually babies can latch on with the tongue tie. It is more painful for the mother because when the tongue touches, it might just rub onto you, then give you a lot of pain. You might want to get a nipple shield for that. Otherwise, it's quite possible to latch on with the tongue tie, because getting the tongue tie, once the baby starts, the pediatricians won't do it immediately, and then latching on with after they take care of the tongue tie can be very difficult for the baby. The baby might be sore there. So I have had a lot of mothers who have breastfed the baby with the tongue tie. They are a little sore. They might be getting bruises here and there, but they can use nipple shield for pain relief. Okay. I'll get on to the next question now. What kind of food should my wife avoid while breastfeeding? See, there's nothing like there are no certain foods. Traditionally, whatever the mothers asked to have, every culture has its own food beliefs. You can carry on with that, but be a little smart. You can't live just on garlic. Garlic has healing properties. Garlic is medicinal. You should have it only in a little quantity. Okay, stop aerated drinks, outside food, freeze frozen stuff, and you'll be fine. Be smart. Nothing's going to pass on through breast milk to your baby if you are able to digest it properly. If you are a little bloaty and gassy, then that might get passed through the breast milk. So I don't think breastfeeding is, when you're breastfeeding a lactating mother, for a lactating mother, I don't think this is the time to experiment with new food. Just eat what you're used to. Be smart. You know what healthy food is. Healthy food is, there is a pattern of healthy food that you're used to when pregnancy. Outside food is a strict no. And then especially in the time of corona, you don't want to take any chances. So healthy food, be smart about it, and then you'll know what to eat. Avoiding is street food, aerated drinks, too much ghee also can lead to constipation sometimes. But again, good amount of ghee is very good for the mother to have. So you have to be a little smart and eat. Breastfeeding recipes, I am not sure how I can help you with breastfeeding recipes. You can have zira water, ajwain water, a lot of cultures, and I think you should have food according to your culture. That's because your genes depends on that. So whatever traditionally, I think your grandmothers and mother, I suspect mothers will know anything at this point because they also have come to this generation. Your grandmother could be a very good source for breastfeeding recipes. uh, I'm getting into the next question. Are breast pumps harmful? Are 3 month old baby and breastfeeding, breast pumps are never harmful. If you're using a hand pump, manual pump, and you're pumping about 4 5 times in a day, then that can take a toll on your shoulder. Electric breast pumps are very safe to use and very convenient for a mother to continue breastfeeding. There is nothing that says that the breastfeeding. See, but you have to again go for a good standard pump, good brand pumps. I don't know if you know, you can't before you choose a pump, is it has double phase and it has all the hygiene involved in making it and all. So breast pump is not harmful at all. You can please go ahead and get yourself a nice breast pump and start using it. It is so much better than giving the baby formula. It is a lot better than giving a baby formula. It is always I'm answering Ketan's question. It is always better to be prepared. If you have breastfeeding classes available in the hospital that you're going to or anywhere else, then it's wonderful for you to take. It's always, see, sometimes a mother is never prepared as to what is going to happen during breastfeeding or postpartum. So it is always a little better. I know as a mother, as a pregnant woman, I've done that too. I've worried about whether I'll have a C-section or a normal delivery. I was not worried, but it was always on my mind whether I'll have a girl or a boy, or who is the baby going to look like, or all those things. So breastfeeding is not really on your mind during pregnancy. You just want to deliver your baby safely. So that is there, and especially in times like this, you will always worry. So breastfeeding is never on the mind of a new mother, and sometimes it can get overwhelming for a mother to just start feeding the baby. You're done. You go through 3 months of nausea, then second trimester is kind of okay, and then all the bloated feeling in the third trimester. You go to the hospital and you deliver, and you think it's done. Though the music starts after delivery, then you are completely responsible for a new human being. I think being prepared with Lama's classes, with breastfeeding classes, with child bath classes is very important, because a woman today wants to be well informed about everything. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, if you're used to eating non-veg and seafood in pregnancy throughout your adult life, it shouldn't bother you while breastfeeding too. If you're allergic to something, please avoid it. This is not the time to try new food. But yeah, if you're a non-vegetarian, yeah. But if you're a vegetarian, don't start eating non-veg as of a sudden, because your body won't take it nicely. Okay. See, I'll tell you, healthy food to increase milk supply can be, you have to understand good hydration, good peace of mind, good calm, consciousness. The mother being anxiety free will lead to more health, more milk supply than just stuffing yourself with food. Okay, you have to understand breastfeeding has three important aspects. It has your hormones, which don't react well to stress. So if you are in a lot, but keep feeding yourself all the healthy food that you want, but your mind is not in a good space, your milk supply is going to go down. Okay, you are very happy, very calm, but you're starving yourself. Even that's not going to help. So if it was a breastfeed, I always tell this to my mothers. If you're writing an exam for breastfeeding, 40 points go to your hormones, which are the source, your lactin, your oxytocin, your progesterone dropping down. All that is 40%. Your demand and supply is another 40%, where the baby is actively feeding, actively emptying your breast. 20% is your diet and medication. But again, your hormones don't react well if your diet and medication are, if you are stressed. Okay, absorption of medication also doesn't happen well if your hormones are haywire. If your hormones are in place and you're eating well, but you're only feeding your baby once or twice in a day, that's not going to help too. So it is a balance between demand and supply, where the baby is latching every 2 3 hours onto the breast. You are having an healthy food, you're taking supplements, if, whatever necessary, and then your hormones are in the right place, where you're having a lot of calmness in your brain and you're really enjoying your baby. So there's not just one particular thing you have to take care while breastfeeding. There are a lot of things which balance together and make breastfeeding possible. My dot, yeah, I'm reading Kunal's question. See, it might be a case of a nipple. You might want to go and look at, have a look by your nearest gynec or a lactation consultant. It might see the baby doesn't have a reason to cry onto the breast. The baby will cry only if it's not getting a good grip, and if the mother has a short nipple or a flat nipple and the baby is not getting a correct grip, then the baby cries. There's the only reason. And if you're using any pungent creams which have an aftertaste, if you know for soreness, if you've used any cream, then the baby doesn't like that cream, then the baby will start crying. Okay, just look at it has to be. I think this is something that you want to go get it checked. Being COVID positive doesn't mean that she can. Okay, I got another question. Can I breastfeed if I'm taking antibiotics? Yes, you can breastfeed. Nobody would give you antibiotics if they didn't, if they knew. I mean, nobody would stop. Like, for any reason, if you're giving antibiotics for mastitis or for any other problem, you can absolutely feed your baby while on antibiotics. How can I increase my breast milk? Can you elaborate on that question? As to, there are different ways to uh, do it. Like, when, if you're already feeding your baby but you're supplementing with formula, then we do something called, in our hospital at least, we do something called uh, demand pumping, wherein, if you are breastfeeding your baby but supplementing with formula, what happens is, if you are giving 30, if your baby is about 2 months old, hypothetically, and the baby's appetite is about 120 ml, and you are able to only make the 70, 80 ml, and the other 40 ml that you are supplementing with formula. So at this point, what happens here is, you keep supplementing with formula, your breast milk is never going to increase. Okay, your baby is your body is going to react with a little more milk every time, but it won't cover the 40 ml difference. So what you have to do is, after you've put the baby onto the breast, whenever you give formula, it is very important for you to demand pump. Like, you use a pump on an empty breast, then signal. See, it would be very convenient if you could just talk to your breast and say, make more milk. It is not possible. You will have to communicate it through a pump. You use an electric pump on an empty breast after you've emptied it by direct breastfeeding. That will create more demand onto the breast. And in 3 days of demand pumping, the breast milk will increase. Okay, I have a question in Hindi. I'm a little. Okay, सो आप कह रहे हैं कि आपका फ्लो ज्यादा है, दुर्गा जी, वो यही कहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि बहुत मिल्क आ रहा है और आपको उसका उपाय चाहिए. ओके, सी आप थोड़ा हाथ से भी निकाल के बॉटल में रख के स्टोर कर सकते हैं, स्पून के साथ पिला सकते हैं, या थोड़ा आप आपका अगर एंगॉजमेंट हो रहा है तो आप एक गरम कपड़ा, बिल्कुल एक टवल जैसा कपड़ा गरम पानी में सुखा के आपके ऊपर लगाएंगे तो भी आपका वो मिल्क थिक होने से रोक सकता है उसको. तो और बेबी पिएगा तो एज द बेबी ग्रोज ओल्डर, एपिटाइट उसका भी थोड़ा ज्यादा होगा, तो शायद वो ज्यादा लेना शुरू कर देगा. आई होप आई आंसर्ड दैट क्वेश्चन. I'm getting on to the next question. My daughter is about 1.2 years. That's a personal choice. You can feed as long as the baby is about 2 years old. But again, see, breastfeeding after a point can lead to a lot of behavioral things. Will they snatch, want to feed on you. It might be too depending. But then again, that's if you can keep those behavioral aspects in control, you can feed as long as your wife wishes to. Okay, how can my uh, 1 year, 7th month, the baby should get all the nutrition from outside also. Breast milk can only provide so much after that point. The baby needs more nutrition, more variety of foods. So if 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 feeding, आप फीडिंग बंद करके देख सकते हैं तो आपको, योर बॉडी इज नेचुरली वीनिंग एंड मिल्क अगर कम हो रहा है तो अब 1 year 7 months is a good time to stop breastfeeding. If it's getting too painful, don't take unnecessary pain. If your body has weaned off naturally, then let the process go. नाइट में कभी कभी उठेगा तो आप फीड कर सकते हैं, ऐसा ही नहीं है. बट द बेबी नीड्स मोर देन ब्रेस्ट मिल्क एट 1 year 7 months. just breastfeeding is not allowed. उसको घर का खाना, पका हुआ खाना, अच्छा और lots of vegetables and fruits भी मिलने चाहिए इस point पे. If the baby is crying while breastfeeding, that means it's not, the latch is slipping out. If the baby slipping out, you have to keep two things in check. Thrush, that the doctor will tell you whether it's there or not, that will lead to crying in breastfeeding. And if the latch is not proper, if the baby is not able to hold a latch, then the baby will get a feeling that you are removing the nipple from the mouth and not giving her a proper latch. The baby is upset about that and the baby will start crying. So these are the two things you want to check while, if that's a problem. Next question. Baby feeds for 5 minutes. See, I would encourage the baby to feed for like 12 minutes at a stretch, then change breast or do 20 minutes on one breast and finish a feed. Because here I'm not worried about the baby so much, I'm worried about you. You will not be getting any rest. So take a deep breath while the baby is onto the breast, and just as the baby is slipping in, going to fall asleep, take a deep breath like that. It will disturb the baby. Nudge the ear, tickle the toes. Keep the baby active onto the breast so that the baby understands that this woman is not going to leave me till I finish a feed, and then does accordingly. Okay? So this is also a behavioral pattern you will have to change. Don't become a pacifier. Don't make the baby a grazer. Grazing is something cattle do. It's not for human baby. What is the concept of grazing? Grazing is what cattle do. They walk on a street, they find a tree, they take a nibble and they keep walking. They never come back because they are very sure in their mind that they'll find another tree at the end of the road. The baby is also using you like a pacifier. They'll just beat their hunger, go back to sleep. Nipple to hamesha rahega. There's no point for me to finish a feed. Don't get the baby into the habit of being a grazer. Finish a feed 15-20 minutes actively. You don't fall asleep. Don't let the baby fall asleep. Just keep the baby very active onto the breast. Finish, and so that the baby the 2 hours nap, and then you get your 2 hours break. Look at it that way. Too much feeding also leads to weight loss. Too much latch time also leads to weight loss in the baby. So there is a, you understand the balance. It is very, very, very nice. It is a very good thing for the baby to for the mother to start leaking from the other breast when the baby is feeding, or you're thinking about feeding and then you start leaking. That means your hormones are in the right place. Your oxytocin, which is your pleasure hormone, gets released while breastfeeding. It will fade off in a month. It's not a continuous process that you'll be leaking all throughout your breastfeeding period. It is oxytocin levels go up and there's a letdown, there is a spray of milk or there's a leak of milk in the first 1 month of breastfeeding. It's a very good sign of your hormones being in the right place. That means you're relaxed. Letdown doesn't happen to women who are anxious. Yeah, being embarrassed, you can use breast pads for that if it gets a little too much for you to handle. See, you can consult a dietitian, but take necessary measures to, you know, eat good food and everything else, and then it's okay to breast milk. Having anemia is not a hurdle for breast milk, but again, you have to take care of your supplements. Take in good supplements so that the baby is good getting, and keep checking the baby also for the same signs. Okay, that was the last question. It was lovely joining you guys. Uh, Thankful for Baby Chakra and Philips Evan for providing this platform for you people to communicate with me, and get being a bridge between this communication. I had a lot of. I hope I answered all your questions. It was lovely being here. Thank you.